was adopted from the Home for Little Wanderers Orphanage in Belfast, which is still there. And I was under a year old. I was a baby when my mother and father adopted me. And I know that a lot of adoptees share kind of that same feeling of just, it doesn't matter how much your family, your adoptive family loves you. There's just something that I always felt, I didn't fit. And it wasn't lack of love, that's for sure. But I never felt like I fit anywhere. Throughout this process of recovery, if anyone told me I would be a Reiki practitioner now, and do a hands-on and being the hugger that I am, I would have told them they were crazy. But it's just amazing how things turn around. I left home when I was about 14, and it was around my 15th birthday. And I believe that the reason why my parents let me go is they felt it was a phase, and that I would get it out of my system and I would be back. And for some reason, it wasn't like a gradual smoking pot and drinking beer in the woods thing. It was just a quick and fast dive right into it. And I said, if you try to find me or bring me home, I'll run away and you'll never see me again. So I kind of, like my mom said, if I knew what I know now, I would have grabbed you by the seat of the pants and had you in a program or a facility so quick. But I think that she feared that I would run away and they'd never see me again. So that's kind of how it started. I did, however, end up pregnant with my son, who is 35 now. And I had also I had quit school, obviously, because the two of us are going to only come find you so many times. And my mother said, look, I'm working. My mother, of all things, was a teacher and an assistant principal. So it broke her heart that I was so opposite of whatever little picture she had in her mind of what a little girl was going to be like. I was none of those things. And I did ask her at one point, I said, Mom, did you ever feel like the devil drove you to the wrong crib when you picked me? And she said, never. She said, but I asked myself many times, what in God's name am I supposed to be learning from this child? And I said, well, what did you come up with? And she said, Amy, you taught me not to be judgmental. When I found out I was pregnant with my son, I quit everything. And I got my GED, and I've always been a caretaker type. So I really wanted to be a nurse's aide, and that seemed like a really good field for me to get into. And so I had that job as kind of a fallback. So when I was pregnant, I just worked all the time to keep myself busy, and I quit everything except I still smoke cigarettes. But I had quit everything. And it's interesting how you can quit something for someone else, but we can't do it for ourselves. But that was what brought me to that stage of being clean. It was very, very important to me to be a good mom, because being adopted, I'm like, this is my flesh and blood, and this is something that I don't take for granted. And but my addiction still, and after a year or so, came back into play. And I ended up my first rehab when my son was 2. I was in 8 different rehabs and halfway houses. I guess the final straw was I had gotten arrested with morphine sulfate. This was the year that I lost my son. It was 1991. And I had no one to blame but myself. And he was going to California to live with strangers. And I felt like I lost the best part of me. But it was a blessing in disguise, because if my mother had continued to enable me and take care of him, I surely would have ended up in Wyndham for 4 years, and God knows what would have happened to my son. I walked across the street to the beach and it was desolate. I was the only one there. It's October, it's dark, it's gray. And never had I felt so alone. And I just wanted to be swallowed up by the ocean. I said, if there is such thing as a higher power or a guardian angel, I said, please give me a sign, because I can't do this and I don't want to be here. And I was either going to take myself out and do it right this time, or I was going to get clean. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I asked for help wholeheartedly and surrendered. And then I just kind of like plopped down in the sand. And I sat there for a bit. And then when I went to get up, and when I pushed myself up out of the sand, I felt something on my fingers. And it was 2 sand dollars that I swear weren't there when I sat down. And I thought, there's my sign. And I said, Mom, can you come get me? And she said, Amy, why should I come get you? What makes this time any different? I said, I'm in the police station and I asked them to come pick me up and to keep me safe until I could get a ride out of town. And she said, I'm on my way. So that was the beginning of turning everything around. And
what year was that?
1991.
That was 91. Oh, so it was right after you lost your son.
Yeah. So when I got to her house, she said, you better call around and find yourself a bed because you're not going to stay here. I ended up in Acadia for 30 some odd days, and then they suggested that because I was on probation and because of my history, that this was not going to be a 21 or 30-day thing. This was going to be 6 months to a year in a halfway house. And I was not really on board with that, because I'm like, there's nothing they can tell me I don't already know. I've been to rehab 8 times. I've been into halfway houses already. I know, and it was probably the 3rd month in that I realized that maybe I do need to be here. With everyone around me asking, why are you here? And anyway, I said, sometimes I'm here because I need to stay safe from a relationship that I can't go back to. Sometimes I'm here because I want my son back. Sometimes I'm here because I want to get my life back. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm here. I just know that I need to be here and I want my son back. And they're like, good answer. I graduated it was over 6 months, but not quite 7. And I graduated from there. And my mom's like, I'm going to come up for your graduation. 2 years later, I got my son back, and I was working as a nurse's aide. I went through they had a program when you were in the halfway house where you could go to adult ed. And I wasn't sure I could do it, even though I knew what I was doing. A lot had changed. There was a lot more paperwork involved, and it wasn't just taking care of patients. So that was very challenging for me, and remembering a lot of the vocabulary, but I got through it. And I was so proud of myself. And I got my son back, and my life was good. I had a few car accidents, and I've had like a reverse curvature in the back of my neck. So that was getting really bad. And I was getting cortisone shots for the longest time. And I ended up getting narcotic pain meds, which triggered a whole other downward spiral for me. And because I had been clean and doing so well for so long, I kept it a secret because I didn't want anybody to worry about me, and so that created a big problem. And that was what led me to start self-medicating. And then I finally knew I gotta own this, and I have to be responsible, and I gotta do something. And I tried many times, but methadone maintenance had never been offered to me. And I wish it had a long time ago, because it really would have saved me a whole lot of heartache and my family's. But it gave me my life back like never before. I actually had counselors that I could be honest with, that understood where I was coming from. Methadone is a treatment that helps me and people like me help ourselves.